Welcome, everybody, to the first TFCSportsTalk.com video. I am your host, the Fantasy Commish, and I thank you all for watching this video. If you are logging in and watching this on YouTube, make sure you do visit my website, TFCSportsTalk.com. Here you'll find all my fantasy sports content, as well as a forum where you can talk to and communicate with other football fans just like you. Okay, so please go ahead and check that out. I'll be posting videos as well as forums and blogs on fantasy football every week leading up to kickoff. So again, this is my first video. I kind of want to get to the point on my videos. I don't want to make them drag these things out for like 10, 20 minutes long. You know, it's February. You got things to do, and I want to make sure that you're getting the fantasy football information that you need now so you can dominate your league in the future. Okay, so again, this is 22 and 23 season. Coaching hires had just wrapped up last week, so I think it's very important that we kind of break those down to see what candidates went to what teams and how that impacts fantasy football this season. So the first one I kind of want to talk about, if you guys don't know, I'm a big stats guy, notes guy. I take tons of notes, so please don't think I'm just pulling things out of my wazoo, but I do my research, and I don't spill just whatever you want to hear out to you. I also am never just going to bash somebody just to get attention. Okay, that's not how I do it. I'm here to help you win fantasy football leagues. The first hire was Kevin O'Connell for the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin O'Connell is a young coach. 36 years old. He was a Rams offensive coordinator. He's very detail-oriented, and he played under Bill Belichick. Those two facts, detail-oriented and played under Bill Belichick, are one of the main reasons why the Minnesota Vikings had hired Kevin O'Connell, right? Think about it for a second. How much play calling did he do in L.A. or is doing because the Super Bowl is Sunday, so he'll be on the sidelines? Probably none. You know, how much push and pull did he have on the playbook this season? We don't really know. Okay, McVay hasn't really come out. At least I haven't read anything of McVay coming out and saying that O'Connell had a big hand on the offense. But what I do know is the Minnesota Vikings need and want to run a tight ship in Minnesota. And who runs the tightest ship? Bill Belichick. Okay, O'Connell played under Bill Belichick as a backup quarterback for him in New England. So I believe that's one of the bigger reasons why the Vikings had hired him. Okay, they also obviously hope that he's learned a few things from McVay. Okay, McVay, in my opinion, is one of the most out-of-the-box, brilliant offensive minds in football. This is a reason why Cooper Kupp was Offensive Player of the Year. Okay, yeah, he's talented, but he created an offensive playbook to fit his talents. So remembering that is very important looking forward. Will O'Connell follow the McVay guideline or the path in terms of playbook? Because if he does, okay, you're going to want to look at guys like, obviously, Justin Jefferson, who is not a surprise, but also like a guy like Adam Thielen, who plays in the slot. Where does Cooper Kupp line up? Usually in the slot, okay? My only issue with Adam Thielen is the injuries, okay? So what we could see is a transformation of Justin Jefferson, of kind of moving him around wherever they need him. We saw that in L.A. a couple years ago in terms of Robert Woods. They moved him around everywhere. So I could see Justin Jefferson doing that this year, but he's such a playmaker on the outside. He's really good on the deep ball. He just constantly gets open. So I don't know if they want to put him in the slot or not, but whoever plays the slot in Minnesota is going to dominate targets and is going to be an excellent fantasy play. Jefferson will be an early pick. Thielen is going to drop even further than he did last year because of the injury and his age. So kind of look at him at the tail end of your draft, middle to tail end of your draft for wide receiver 3 or your flex, something like that. It's not a bad take. Next on our coaching list is Matt Eberflus. He's 56 years old, and he was hired by the Chicago Bears. This is a pretty Chicago hire if I've ever seen one. Defensive-minded guy, came from Indianapolis last year. Runs a really good defense. However, this helps Field nil. Okay, Field gets no help out of his head coach here. Eberflus is a defensive guy. However, they did make a new offensive coordinator hire. They hired a guy named Luke Getsy, who is the passing game coordinator in Green Bay as well as a quarterbacks coach. Green Bay. MVP, Rodgers. Rodgers must have worked with Getsy, so that makes Getsy a good coach, right? I don't see it. I don't get it. Rodgers has been dominating the league since Getsy was probably in college. To be a quarterback coach for a guy like Aaron Rodgers is to stand there and probably say yes, sir, and grab him a drink whenever he needs it. I just don't see this hire as being a good hire in terms of the development of Justin Fields. However, I'm not here to bash anybody. This guy's 37 years old. He may know a lot about football. Maybe he learned a lot from Aaron Rodgers that he can now transfer over to Justin Fields. Okay, that's a hope. Fantasy impact, there's only one fantasy impact here, and it's pretty obvious, is Justin Fields. Okay, can he develop Justin Fields into a starter in the NFL? And can he take him one step further and be the star in which we know he can be? I'm going to look at Justin Fields this year in terms of a late second quarterback, maybe my last pick if he's still there, late in the draft. Why? Justin Fields can get in the red zone, and I think he will moving forward. I think that's going to be one of his calling cards, kind of like a Cam Newton scrambler in the red zone, get out of the pocket, nothing's there, take off. You saw flashes of it this past year as a rookie. I think he's only developed that moving forward. So in fantasy purposes, Eberflus has really no impact besides on the defense. And Getsy, I guess you could say, is going to have a large impact on Justin Fields. Let's see if it's a positive one or Justin Fields doesn't progress and never turns into a star in the NFL. Next on our list is Dabo for the New York Giants. I think this is one of the better hires of the year. I am a little biased. I am a New York Giants fan. However, I just think this is just a great fit. John Mara came out and he said that we have done Daniel Jones, injustice, or haven't done anything good for Daniel Jones. Haven't put him in a position to do well since he got to New York. And I 100% agree. Joe Judge was not a coach. He's not an NFL head coach. I don't know what he was doing in New York. He was a waste of time. And he did nothing to help Daniel Jones. Okay, but I think the ball can do something for Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones has a little bit of that Josh Allen in him, right? Those design run plays, I think, will work well with Daniel Jones if he puts on a little bit of weight this offseason, but he also learns how to hold on to the ball. That's going to be key. But I think if you run an offense kind of like the Buffalo Bills do, roll out, get him out of the pocket, let him take off every once in a while, okay? Keep things safe, get it to receivers, get it out quick, run ball every once in a while, want to run the ball, but don't always have to run the ball because you have a quarterback that can run. I think that's extremely important moving forward for the New York Giants if Daniel Jones is going to be the franchise quarterback that they seem to want to make him to be. I'm not saying he is. I'm not a big Daniel Jones guy, but there has been flashes of him, especially running the ball. Okay, so I think this is a great hire for the New York Giants. I'm hoping he brings the Buffalo Bills attitude, toughness to the New York football team. I do think that this was a fantastic hire, one of my favorite hires. Again, I am a little bit biased, but I do think this guy is going to be a fantastic head coach, whether it was in New York or anywhere else. So fantasy implications here. Obviously, you're looking at Daniel Jones, and you're looking at the entire, New York Giants wide receiver core, who actually was abysmal last year. Kenny Golladay was a ghost of himself and invisible. Let's see if he can play more of a Stephon Diggs role in this New York Giants offense, because if he can do that, we're talking his target share is going to go up. His red zone looks are going to go up. So let's, if you're a Kenny Golladay fan and New York Giants fan, let's hold our breath, and a Daniel Jones fan, and hope this works out. Next on the list is Doug Pederson. Doug Pederson, we all know him out of Philadelphia, is hired by the Jacksonville Jaguars to coach Trevor Lawrence. Okay, Trevor Lawrence, since he's been in the NFL, has not had a good coach. Okay, Urban Meyer was a disaster in Jacksonville, and I do think Doug Pederson will do a good job. I kind of like this hire as well. Look at Carson Wentz at the beginning of his career, right, when he was raw. Right, college quarterbacks come out of college raw. People kept saying Trevor Lawrence is the next Peyton Manning. No, not yet. Yeah, he's got the arm talent to be, but he's still raw, right? You got to coach him up. I think Doug Pederson is the right guy for Trevor Lawrence. He's got that cool, calm demeanor. He also can get on a player when he needs to get on a player. So I do like this hire in terms of Trevor Lawrence and his fantasy football impact. However, I do see just as big of a fantasy impact player on the Jaguars roster, or not yet on the Jaguars roster because of the Doug Pederson hire. Dan Arnold, or whoever's going to be their starting tight end. Doug Pederson has a history of loving his tight ends. Creating a playbook around Ertz in Philadelphia was what he did, right? Carson Wentz was only dominant when Wentz was dominant. Okay, Carson Wentz was only good when he was throwing the ball to Ertz 15 times a game. Okay, I was reading a bunch of articles, and they really like Dan Arnold in Jacksonville. They think he's a mismatch nightmare for defenses. So keep Dan Arnold's name in mind in your fantasy draft. It could be a really good steal, a sleeper late in your draft this summer. So keep an eye on Dan Arnold moving forward. Next up, Denver Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett was hired I don't get this hire. This was simply a Rodgers, please come to us move. Rodgers has put confidence in his back to Nathaniel Hackett in the past in terms of being a good coach and Rodgers enjoying him and liking him as a friend. That is the reason why Denver had hired Nathaniel Hackett. Now, do we not know something that Denver knows? Has Rodgers reached out to Denver and told him, you hire him, I'll come? Only time will tell. And fantasy implications here, if Rodgers goes to Denver, watch out. Okay, there's a ton of fantasy implications, obviously, when you're getting a reigning MVP to start under center for you. They have a young wide receiver core in Denver, a very explosive wide receiver core. I love Tim Patrick over there. I have, if you watch go back to my fantasy football post from my Instagram, I was on Tim Patrick all year long last year, and I only like him more, obviously, if Rodgers is under center. So keep your eye on that for obvious reasons. Josh McDaniels, Las Vegas Raiders. Again, I do like this hire. Many people don't, but I do. Why? Carr is kind of running out of steam here, right, of his career. He's kind of running into the tail end of his career. He's still playing excellent. But Josh McDaniels, this is going to be his last shot at being a head coach, right? So they both have something to prove, and I think that plays large in off-season work and development with your playbook and relationships with your players. You're going to want the best out of them because you're going to give them the best as your head coach. And that goes hand in hand with David Carr moving forward. So I do think this is a good hire for the Raiders as far as fantasy implications. I'm obviously looking at Carr, but I'm also looking at Darren Waller, right? For the same fact that I talked about Doug Pederson, McDaniels loves his tight ends. Have you guys ever heard of the guy named Rob Gronkowski before? Athletic, big, great in the red zone. Darren Waller, athletic, big, hasn't really had a shot in the red zone other than 2 years ago. He rarely gets targeted there, and I think this year here is going to be the time where we're going to see Darren Waller's target share go way up, and the most important target share that's going to go up is red zone targets. So keep your eye on that. Darren Waller could be a very good pick early in your draft. Miami Dolphins hired a Mike McDaniel. Have you guys seen this guy's interviews? Am I watching a cartoon? Is this a cartoon character? I don't understand this hire. I don't understand this hire at all. They had a great head coach in Flores. I get he didn't get along with his staff, and that's why they let him go. But you don't go ahead and hire basically a total opposite of Flores in a Mike McDaniel, right? This guy could be a great coach. Again, I don't know. He's very young. A lot of these guys are unproven. I just don't know. I can only tell you what I'm seeing. And from what I'm seeing with these interviews, this guy I don't get it. I just don't get this hire. He obviously worked under Shanahan in San Francisco, but to get a job over Eric Bieniemy is wild to me. As you see here, it blows my mind how a guy like this can step into you-know-what and get a starting gig for the Miami Dolphins, who actually have a very good team. So fantasy implications, I think it's going to be the running game. Mike McDaniel was obviously the running coordinator in San Francisco. And if we know anything about San Francisco is they like to run the ball, and they ran the ball extremely well. So if this guy's as good and bright as they're saying he is in terms of creating a run offense, this Miami team is going to be pretty dangerous. Okay, protect Tua. Tua doesn't have to throw the ball downfield anymore if you have a running game, right? Dinks and doinks and run and beat up that defensive line, and the linebackers get him tired, wear him down. So I think that may be what Miami is thinking here moving forward. So fantasy impacts, running game for Miami, pick and choose your running back there. Read headlines as the season goes on. Training camps will be extremely important. Who's their starter? Gaskins? I don't know. We'll see. And for sure, this is going to help Tua. Do I think Tua is going to be a fantasy star this year? I don't. Do I think he'll be a serviceable fill-in during a bye week? Sure. New Orleans Saints hired Dennis Allen. Okay, this is a simple culture hire. They want nothing to change in New Orleans. They want to keep their culture, so they're going to keep their culture by hiring a defensive coordinator. He's a good defensive coordinator. They didn't want to lose him, so they kept him. I'm not really angry with this hire. I just don't think it has any fantasy impact at all. But I do think one fantasy guy you have to keep your mind on is Michael Thomas. Where is he going to play for the Saints next year? Is he not? Where is he going? Don't forget Michael Thomas. Okay, many people are forgetting about Michael Thomas. Don't be that guy or that girl. Do not forget Michael Thomas. Mark that down. Michael Thomas. Write it on your forehead, on your nose, anywhere you can. Michael Thomas. And then, of course, the last hire was a Luv Smith. I got nothing for you guys here for this Houston hire. This is obviously, to me, just a placeholder until they can find their star player in a draft pick, and then build a coaching staff around his or her. Sorry, not her, but around his talents, whether it's obviously got to be a quarterback of some sort. So, this hire to me is simply just you can hold this position. You've done your time in the NFL. You're well respected. We'll keep you here. He's 43-77 as a head coach in both college and in the pros. It's almost that's bad, right? So moving on from Luv Smith. Okay, so all these fantasy impacts because of a simple coaching hire is something very important moving forward. It's something I'm going to touch on week to week to week, right? Playbooks are going to change. Attitudes in the locker room are going to change. Players that never got a shot are going to get a shot. So keeping up with headlines or just keeping up with my videos are going to keep you in the best position to win your fantasy football league. All right, so if you haven't, please make sure you go to my website, tfcsports.com. Subscribe to my YouTube video because every video that goes on there will be put onto YouTube. And if you haven't already, make sure you're following my Instagram, _fantasy_commish, and that's on Instagram. All that is going to be underneath this video, under the bio and everything else. So thank you all for watching this video. Please go to my website, chime in, become part of the Fantasy Commish community. Peace.